Hello and welcome to today's training industry demo, Future Proofing Teams, Achieving Upskill Goals with Adobe Learning Manager. I'm Liz Spate, Events Marketing Specialist here at Training Industry, and I'm thrilled to have you with us here today. And before we get started, I would like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of today's program. So throughout today's event, please feel free to use that chat window to interact with our speaker with any comments. And as for those questions, please submit all those questions to the Q&A section if they're big, deep. If we have some quick technical ones as we go through the demo, you can just kind of plug those in the chat. We will address all those comments and questions throughout the event and at the end at our Q&A section. We'd also love to hear about what you've learned from today's session on social media. So please follow @Adobe and hashtag TI webinars as you share your favorite takeaways with your colleagues. And when this webinar ends, you should receive a short evaluation survey. We always welcome your feedback on things like the content, the speakers, topics, or anything else you would like to share with us, so be sure to complete that survey after the event. And as always, today's webinar will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include the link to the on-demand program for you to share with your team. If you've attended one of our programs in the past, thank you so much for joining us again. And if this is your first webinar with us, welcome. At Training Industry, we offer dozens of webinars with subjects ranging from AI to analytics to onboarding, upskilling, and reskilling. We cover about every topic relevant to the leaders of training organizations around the globe. And now to get started, let me introduce you to today's speaker. Justin Seeley is a highly experienced learning and development leader with over 2 decades of expertise in online learning and graphic design. And currently, Justin is the e-learning evangelist at Adobe, where his comprehensive knowledge of Adobe products and learning design empowers him to passionately inspire and educate customers about Adobe's dynamic e-learning suite. And with that, Justin, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Liz. And thanks everybody for taking the time to be with me this morning on a Tuesday. Really appreciate it. I'm actually going to jump into a presentation very quickly. So let me open this up and go from there. So we're going to just do a brief little intro here. So today's session, of course, is called Future Proofing Teams, Achieving Your Upskilling Goals with Adobe Learning Manager. Adobe Learning Manager is the product that I specifically support. So as Liz mentioned, I'm an e-learning evangelist at Adobe. My primary focus is Adobe Learning Manager. If you ever have any questions about that or anything from today's session, you can scan this QR code on your screen. It'll take you to my LinkedIn page. That's where you can send me a message directly. You can also connect with me there, as well as subscribe to my newsletter that I publish every week called This Week in Learning. It's a great resource for just kind of my thoughts on the industry, my experience, and then other things that I find throughout the week that I think are worth sharing with everybody online. So let's go over a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll just jump straight into the demo. I don't want to waste your time with a lot of slides. So we're going to go into using skills in ALM. I'll talk a little bit about skills, what they are, and why you want to care about them here in just a minute. We're also going to talk about how to enable personalized learning on Adobe Learning Manager, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's important as well. I'm going to talk about AI-powered content recommendations and how we generate those on our platform. And then finally, we're going to close things out with how I would use gamification as motivation for your learners in today's environment. And then the last piece, how to measure what matters. I do have a dedicated section at the end for Q&A if we have time. However, as we're going along, if you have any questions, please feel free to just drop those in the comments. I probably won't be able to see the comments while I'm presenting, but if it makes sense, Liz is going to interrupt me to ask me clarifying questions. And then if we have a list of questions at the end, I'll get back to those at the very end as we close out. So I want to start off with kind of an informal poll. So just thumbs up, thumbs down in the chat if you or your organization is currently, in your opinion, offering a clear path for people to improve their skills at your organization today. So just thumbs up, thumbs down in the chat. Do you think you're giving people a way to A, say what skills they have, and B, give them a way to upskill those skills today in the chat? Let's see. We have one thumbs up. Anybody else? You can also type yes, no. Or if you're shy, it's totally cool too. Okay. Well, yes. Okay, good. So That's good. I'm glad to hear that people are at least thinking about the term skills. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is pretty specific because in progress, says Jody. That's great. That's great. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because there is a recent piece of research, and if you attended the last webinar I did here with Training Industry, you probably have seen this statistic, but 77% of organizations today, according to research done by Adobe and Lighthouse Research, say that organizations anticipate a significant skills gap in the coming years. Now, there are a variety of factors that contribute to that. Obviously, we went through a global pandemic and we had to shift to remote work very quickly and things like that. So, a couple of reasons why I think this is happening. One, I think training kind of went on the back burner for a little bit, or at least proactive training. I think it was more compliance based and we just kind of, we had to rest on our laurels a little bit and just get through what we had to get through. But I also think that there's this diversification in the workplace that's happening on a generational level. And basically what I'm saying, like, we have all these people from all these different generations and they all learn at different paces with different styles. For example, like I think people who are my age or older, I'll just date myself. I'm 40. Like I think we prefer like kind of lecture style, hands-on type of stuff. Whereas I have, little cousins, nieces, nephews, people like that. Like if they're not watching it on YouTube, they don't care about it. So like there's a difference in how that is presented. And I think we as organizations have to evolve how we teach these people. But one of the things that is an interesting statistic that I came back with as well is that most people from Gen Z, for example, don't like corporate training because they don't believe that it's relevant to things that they care about. Well, how do we get to a place where we are generating content that people do care about? That's what we're going to talk about in today's session. So I'm going to go back to sharing here. Let me find my Adobe Learning Manager home screen. And there we go. Okay. So inside of Adobe Learning Manager, I'm currently logged in as an administrator. And to do a lot of what we're going to be talking about here up front, you do need to be logged in as an admin. If at any point I need to switch profiles, I'll tell you which profile that is in order to accomplish the task. But for now, I'm logged in as an admin. So let's talk about skills for a second. So ALM, that's what we call Adobe Learning Manager, ALM for short, has this section over here on the left-hand side called skills. And you can see here in my Adobe Learning Manager instance, I have lots of skills already created. So I've got one for cybersecurity, new managers, After Effects, Lightroom, LMS basics, mastering Illustrator, etc. You get the idea. So you as an admin can actually bring skills in. So things that you want your learners to be skilled on. So you could align this with overall business objectives. You could align this with what you believe specific roles need to achieve. So let's take this cybersecurity level 1, for example. Well, maybe you need levels 2 and 3 because you're trying to build out a cybersecurity certification for all employees to go through as a part of your compliance. So those are different ways that you can start thinking about skills and bringing them into ALM. You can bring them in as a mass import, so you can bring in a CSV file, or you can add them individually. Let me show you how to add one individually here. So I'm just going to go to this add button in the top right hand corner. I'm going to choose add. And that's going to come up here and give me a skill name. So I've just got to name it something. I would advise making this name mean something to you, have it ladder back into a business objective or something else. But let's just say for the sake of argument, in this case, we're just going to call this the Adobe Learning Manager skill because we have a series of courses in our LMS that we want people who are learning administrators, people like that. We want them to learn the ALM product. And we can say skills necessary to manage ALM content, something like that. You get 8,000 characters here. Obviously, I have not used 8,000, but again, you can choose that. Then you get to choose a domain. Now, the domain, these are pre-populated things within Adobe, and there are several of them. If I click this no more link, it's going to show you here we have this long list of things that you can do here. So I'm going to choose learning because it's associated with obviously learning. And then what we can do is determine the leveling of this. So right now, level 1, you can also add level 2, 3, etc. You don't have to fill those in if you want, but what you do is you go, okay, to attain level 1, how many credits from level 1 courses do you need? So I could say I want one credit. Or if there's a specific badge that you've already created, badges are associated with courses, you can just choose that badge here to say like, hey, I've got it. So like here, level one, oh look, I have an ALM level one badge that's associated with that. So once I've completed this, I can earn this badge. Super cool, right? For this one, we'll just say one for this as well. I don't have a badge for that yet. We'll get back to that in a minute. And then a badge, or excuse me, and then one credit here. Once we do that, then we tap on save. So now we have a skill added, and you can see here my skill is called Adobe Learning Manager. It is within the skill domains of learning and skills necessary to manage ALM content. That's the description we set forth. And then it tells me here how many credits I need of each one of these levels to complete this, right? Now I can go in as an admin and I can start assigning these skills to people as well. So I can say everybody within my learning organization needs to achieve this skill. And then what that can do is allow me to add content to their learning plans that we create inside of Adobe Learning Manager to say like, you need to complete the following learning plan in order to achieve and verify these skills. Now I say achieve and verify. As you start to take these courses, right? You will get credit for taking the courses, but in order to verify the skill, you should add things like a certification or a quiz or something like that to kind of judge the efficacy of the content. And that's not for today's session, but hopefully one of these days we can do something on skill verification later on down the road. So once I have this done, with all of these skills. Then what I need to do is I need to start assigning these skills to content within my content library, right? So I'm going to switch now to be a course author. And so once I'm an author, I can go into my courses catalog and I can start looking for Adobe Learning Manager courses. Easiest way to do this, of course, is to come up here and, oops, not that. Let's just type out Adobe. That'll narrow the scope of what we're looking for. And so here we have registering users in Adobe Learning Manager, gamification, importing users, accessing reports, etc. So in order to start making these associated with those skills, I'll tap on the course itself. And inside of the settings section, you can see here for importing users, LMS Basics is already assigned here. But I can click Edit. And then at the top, I can add more skills. And then I can choose the Adobe Learning Manager skill. I can say, okay, you know what? Importing users, pretty basic function. We're going to give that a level one. And then how many credits do we want to do here? We'll just say, you know what? We're going to do the max credits because 1-to-1. If you wanted to change that, you know, that's based on how many credits you have in the level one section, et cetera. But in this case, we only have one, so we're just going to do that. This field is required, so I guess it's going to ask me to put my name in there. That's cool. Let's make sure I don't have anything else. Red, no. And then we'll republish that course. Now, essentially what that means is as someone comes in, if they were to take that course as a learner, then they would, once they complete that level one, they would then achieve the skill of Adobe Learning Manager level one. But I can also add things to that, right? So we just did importing users. What if I wanted to add gamification to that skill as well? Let's go to settings, edit. You can see that's also a part of LMS Basics there. So let's add another one. And let's choose Adobe Learning Manager, skill level one, and republish that as well. I'm not going to go through this each and every time, but you kind of get the idea. And then basically what you can do then is start grouping this content together into a learning path that you could then assign somebody. And you could say, okay, you know, new person who's just coming onto the team, or, you know, let's say maybe you just switched to ALM from a different learning management system. You want to assign this to your whole team. You can do that inside of Adobe Learning Manager as an admin. So let me switch back to admin for a second. And let's go down to not recommendations. Let's go to skills. And then on skills here, we can choose assign. Also, you can assign skills to instructor assignments in the system. We're not going to do that though. And let's see if I click on that. It's not going to go, is it? Nope. Okay. Well, we'll just keep moving. Don't want to. I've had a little bit of trouble with my computer this morning, so we're just going to keep moving forward there. So that's part of the skills. Now, there are some new things with skills that are coming down the road that I can't really show you today, but I will talk about them a little bit. So, one of the things with skills here is that I'm assigning these skills or I'm creating these skills myself as a manager, right? I'm not allowing people to add skills to their profiles proactively necessarily. That's something new that's probably going to be coming in Adobe Learning Manager down the road where people can, you know, assign and then verify skills themselves, making it a little bit easier for them to kind of make their profile more full and robust and give a better understanding of like their full gamut of abilities within the scope of Adobe Learning Manager. It makes it easier for you as a manager too to understand exactly where they think they are, and then you can work with them during their performance conversations and things like that to understand, okay, now wait a minute. Now you say that you have the skills of a data analyst. Let's talk about how we prove that, or let's talk about things that you've done, courses you've taken, certifications you've gotten to back that up, and that those kind of things. So I kind of tend to look at this as like a catalyst for conversation in a lot of ways, because skills in the workplace are great ways to form those performance conversations, right? Because ultimately, when you're having a performance conversation as a learner with your manager, you're kind of trying to tell them where you want to go. It's their job to tell you where you sit on that gamut of being from point A to point B. And an easy way for them to really and scientifically prove, yes, you have actually made strides towards becoming a manager or becoming a software developer level two, is by looking at the types of learning content, certifications, badges, points, all of these things that we aggregate inside of ALM to say, yeah, you know what? You're making meaningful progress in that regard. And I think that's really something that you can do to help not only make your team happy, but make the learning that you're creating in here more personal. And I think that's something that we're going to talk about next is about how do we start personalizing those journeys. But the final point here that I want to make on skills is that this is a great thing to start thinking about the future. You know, the title of this session is future proofing your teams. So let's take AI as an example. We want to make sure that we're being proactive in how we are skilling our workforce. And one of the ways that we can do that is by starting to build a skill taxonomy and a course catalog that deal with proactive topics like artificial intelligence, generative AI, all of these things. And then assigning those courses, learning paths, learning plans to our teams to make sure that they are A, aware of our current stance on these new technologies. B, they are all learning from the same source. At least there's a universal source of truth about how our company thinks about those particular technologies. And C, they're all measured against the same thing so that we can understand truly the proficiency levels of everybody across that spectrum with that particular skill. Now, AI is going to have all different, verticals that it goes into. So I think that's a little too broad, but you could think about this in terms of, UX design, software development, marketing, sales, etc. There are all of these different ways that you could create a skills taxonomy and a course catalog that allow people to sort of be future proofed against changes coming to the organization, new technologies, new things like that, all that comes out. So that's kind of our basic skills story for now. I'm going to pause here for a second. If there are any questions that anybody might have about anything related to skills or how we might approach skills building inside of Adobe Learning Manager or anything like that.
As of now, we are all good.
Okay, cool. So let's move on. And I'm going to jump back over here and share my screen. And let's go here. So yes, no, check mark, or X, however you want to respond in the chat. Are you and your organization actively trying to personalize the learner journey for your teams? And it doesn't really matter how you're doing it. I just want to know if you're doing it, if it's something you're considering right now. So is anybody actively trying to personalize the journey for your employees or your teams right now? Okay, I've got 3 yeses so far. That's great to see. There's a check mark from Maria. Thank you so much. That's really cool because I've asked this question live in person and gotten a lot of either blank stares or thumbs down in the room. So thank you guys for that. And I think that is something also we need to be very cognizant of because, like I mentioned before, there was a statistic in that Lighthouse research where um, Gen Z specifically, and I think a lot of people now, it's just not just specific to Gen Z, but that was the one that really got called out in that research. They were saying things like, I really don't like corporate training or I don't give it that much credence because it doesn't deal with anything that I'm interested in. Okay, let's see how we can start gearing content into things that, people are actually interested in. So let's go back into ALM. And this time, I'm going to go over here to the recommendations section. And this is a relatively new feature in ALM. So if you are an ALM user, or even if you're not, the first time you come in here, you will see the recommendations screen is kind of new. And you're going to have the option to upgrade. And it tells you here that you can enhance your learner's experience by presenting them with the most relevant and popular learning content. Basically, what you're doing here is turning on our new recommendation engine. So it tells you here it's going to replace the recommendations based on skills and peers that you might be used to. If you wish to switch back to your older recommendations, you can do so under the actions menu from the recommendations page. But for now, we're just going to proceed. So now we're here. It's a blank slate. Everything we had before kind of wiped out. Oh no, kind of scary. But we're just going to go ahead and click get started. And then once we click get started, it's going to ask you, all right, how would you like to frame your recommendations? Well, in this case, you can do by product or also by role. But this is a pretty new instance of ALM. I don't have a lot of roles or anything like that defined, but think about this in terms of if you wanted to have distinct roles like UX designer, sales manager, things like that. And that way, people who are interested in either leveling up their skills within that domain or becoming one of those things. So changing direction. Maybe they want to go from, being in marketing to being in sales or vice versa, like giving them the ability to do that, allowing them to express interest in that. And then, so this time we're just going to do products because we have some products already in here. And you can also say whether or not you want to enable levels within products. So you saw me add levels to the skills a few moments ago. Same is true within products. We can say, okay, you've achieved Photoshop level 1, 2, 3, etc. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue. And then you can start adding products. So here, let's just do Adobe Photoshop and you can separate them with commas and we'll do Adobe Illustrator and let's do Adobe Learning Manager and you can add as many of these as you want. I'm not going to go crazy here, but let's just do Adobe Lightroom. And each time I want to create a new one of these, I'm hitting the comma key on my keyboard to do that. And then once I'm done, I hit continue. And now that's going to add all of those products in for me. However, it doesn't really, this is just the admin view of this, right? So it's going to tell you here, like, okay, you've set your stuff up and you say you've mapped the parameters to courses, learning paths. You can do so a one-time bulk mapping via CSV file or individually from the authoring workflow, right? So let's go back over here and let's change to an author. And then we're going to go into courses. So this is all still administrative. We're not talking about the learner journey at this point. We're going to get there though. And so from here, I'm going to go in and let's just see. Here's learning Photoshop, the fundamentals, right? So what we're going to do is click on this and we're going to go to edit. Okay. Settings. Okay. And
And while you're doing all that, there
yeah,
was a question from
sure.
Maria, and she said, what might a quote unquote product be outside the Adobe world?
Sure. So you can set it's pretty much any product that you want so anything you have training on, right? So you can create those within your system, and then what you can do is assign those. Oh, it did a thumbs up for some reason, and then you can assign those, which is what I'm getting ready to go into now. My browser just crashed. You can assign the products that you have to specific courses inside of ALM. So let me see if I can get that back open here.
Perfect timing then for a question.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect timing. Oh no, my browser's not behaving. Um, let's see here. Okay, trying to get there.
Gotta love technology. But I hope that
Yeah, you
answered your
do.
question, Maria. Oh, there's another question. Perfect.
Yes,
Wow, they're
please.
coming in. So that would be a type of LMS, Jen asked.
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Jen asked, so that would be a type of LMS, kind of like the talk about product.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, the learning management system, yeah, the Adobe Learning Manager is an LMS, and so you could add it in. This is an LMS that we're talking about overall, right? Adobe Learning Manager. You can have products set up in there that are LMSs, so you could, train somebody on another LMS or et cetera. But yeah, it's all relative to that. Yep. All right. So let me, you know what? If that's not going to work, I'm going to bring up a different demo. Always have a backup of your demos. Da, 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 da. Let's bring this up. And
This is a really great time for questions. So definitely keep the questions coming.
yes, please. My apologies for this. Why is that
You
not?
can only control technology so much, which I feel like we're learning that
This is
across the.
true. This is true. Um, okay, let's bring this up. All right, now let's share my screen. And go share. Okay. Okay. We're going to go through this a little bit. So this is kind of a rudimentary demo of what we were talking about before. Um, skills, okay. Do. Okay. Learner's journey. Here we go. Okay. Da, 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 okay. And is this going to work? Oh, these are assessments. Nope. That's not it. Okay. Huh. All right. Well, you know what? Let's get back on track. If I can get this up and running here in a minute, we'll get back to it. But let's just go back here and go back to this. Okay. So let's jump ahead to um, content recommendations. So, okay, as a learner, let's say, for example, switch back to a learner. Okay. So as a learner, I can come in and I can start saying, that I'm interested in specific things. So this is the wrong ALM. Let's try this one more time. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh my goodness. My ALM is not behaving today. Well, sorry, I'm trying to find a PowerPoint of the backup of this is why I'm trying to figure this out. That's it.
No
There
worries.
we go. Okay. All right. Let's just move on. Apologies for that. Can't get that to work right now. So we'll just try to take a look at a different instance of ALM for a second. So as you create your products that you have, then you can go in and you can tag courses that are associated with those products. Once you do that, you can then, as a learner, take a look at your home page after you've identified what you're interested in. That's the part that's not working at the moment for me right now. So this is another demo environment, however. And on the learner's homepage, you will see a lot of things like a leaderboard, social feed, all these different things. You also see recommendations based off peer activities. But the one thing I want to highlight is this right here. So recommendations are based on your area of interest. So these are all things that you've said that you are interested in. And one of the ways that you can do that is by saying you're interested in different skills, right? So I can go and I can add different skills that I want. So here I'm interested in, what am I interested in? Let's just say, I'll just pick some here. So agility, business analyst, data visualization, et cetera. Add those in to things that I'm interested in. Then over time, what Adobe Learning Manager is going to do, it's going to start reading that. It's going to start reading also things that I'm interested in from a product perspective, right? And it's going to allow me to then go in and see those things from my homepage. So let's see if it picked up any of those for now. Oh, went back to the wrong thing. There we go. So over time, this recommendation is based on interest. That is then going to show me those specific courses in this area here, recommended courses that I want to see based on the interest that I have set up. So that's another way that we can start to create those personalized learning experience for people. So adding all of the different products into the system, saying all the different products, skills, things that we might find relevant for specific roles, put those into the system, then allow people to go in and actually express interest in those. So, not just assigning content to those people directly, but also allowing them to self identify that they're interested in upskilling in these areas. And then through this new recommendation engine, the recommendation engine is taking into account things that you've looked at before, things that your peers are looking at, and then also looking at these interests, and they're generating these recommendations based off peer activity, these recommendations based off your interest, giving your homepage a much more personalized and I think sticky feel. Because basically, if I'm seeing things here constantly that I'm interested in, new content that's being brought to the forefront by my manager or by the company itself, I can come here and I can enroll in this anytime I want, and then I can start my path towards earning credits towards that skill or towards level 1, level 2, level 3 of that product, etc. And then when it comes time to say, I'd really like to make the change from marketing to sales, or I really think I'm ready to be promoted to software developer 2. Well, what effort have I put into doing that? And that's easily demonstrable from my Adobe Learning Manager instance here. I can go in as a learner at any time and check, my skills, or I can check my badges that I've earned to see the progress that I've made against those specific things. So those are all really cool ways that we can do that. All right, so let's move away from those. And let me go back to my slides here for just a second. And let me see. We have one more little question here. And I don't know if this is actually going to work. So may want to switch different question here, but I'm just curious. And this is the question that I'm talking about. So, does your company currently use AI to help generate content recommendations? So, smiley face, sad face, yes, no. Are you currently using AI in any way that you know of to recommend content to your learners today? I see a laughing face. I'm gonna guess that means no. Like, nope, we surely are not. Um, I see a couple. Okay, a couple people saying yes, a couple people saying no. That's totally cool. All right. Oh, I found it. Okay, cool. All right, great. So let me share this. I found the backup presentation from before. So let's go back to this for a second. So let me go in here and so this is actually a video of, from a learner's perspective, how you would set up AI-based content recommendations. So, for example, I'm a learner. I'm going to come in, and as a learner, I can come over here to this left-hand side and say, I want to set up recommendations. You see that little tab over there that says recommendations. So you come in here, and then it's going to come. It's going to say, oh, okay, well, what products do you want to be educated on? You can say, oh, I want to do, Photoshop or Illustrator, and you can hit that choose products button. It also allows you to do that as well, right? So once you do that, you can go in there and once this is chosen, then you can say, okay, what level are you going for in here as well, right? And then once that is finished, you can go in and it's going to automatically start analyzing the content based on your interest. And then this is going to scroll down a little bit. And here we go. Let me pause right here. So recommended based on your interest. We chose Illustrator from that list. Automatically, this is populated with Illustrator content. So this is one of the ways that we're using generative AI to kind of, or not generative AI, but just AI in general to analyze and personalize that learner journey for you. So, and then it kind of goes along with this new skill story that we're trying to tell here. So let's go back over to Learning Manager. And we've been logged out. Let's log back in. You know, come on, there we go. Okay. And we're going to log into a different instance of Learning Manager now. Okay. There we go. Okay. So you can see this over here. This is this recommendation section. And so basically, you've created your parameters, mapped your learning objects. Everything is live because we've got courses in here that are already mapped to it. And so you can see there that all of those products that I talked about earlier are there. If I switch to a learner view here, here we go. So this is the live demo of this. So set up recommendations. I can say, okay, what product do I want? I want Photoshop. I want beginner level content. Maybe I'm just trying to get into Photoshop. And then once I do that, that's going to bring me back to my thing and it's going to start generating. And this will change over time. So as content is added, if it's something that I want to have here, but I can go back anytime I want into my recommendations and I can say, you know what? I want to add more things to this, or I want to change to add Illustrator to this, and I only want intermediate content from Illustrator because maybe I'm better at that. And then I hit save. So obviously, this is a pretty scant list of products, but if you had a bunch of products that your company trained on, maybe it's a lot of internal products, maybe it's external products, depending, people would be able to choose from those. And then once you do that, you could also set up, you know what, I actually want to be trained on, certain skills, etc. And then once you do that, you go back. And there we go. And this recommended based on your interest is going to change over time. There's a notification telling me there's new content coming in. Maybe there's no content associated with some of these, but in any case, as that comes about, that will continue to evolve as you add and subtract and modify the things that you want there. You can also choose to view all. When you choose view all, that's going to say, you know what, here's all the content that you currently have associated with the things you've told me you're interested in. So this is a full course catalog, filters already created. So Photoshop, Illustrator, beginner, intermediate, and all those tags are there at the top. It shows you all that content here. I can immediately start all of these that I want at any time from there. So again, just another way of kind of making this highly personalized to the learner based on things that they want. And I also think this is another way to sort of future proof the learning journey for your teams as well, because this not only allows you to put things in front of them that you think are interesting, it allows them to go out and find things that are interesting. And then as we start talking about reporting here in a little while, you can dive into those reports and start saying, oh, you know what? We've seen an exponential increase in the interest in let's say, for example, there was a course in here on Photoshop's generative AI features. A lot of people in our organization are interested in this generative AI topic, or a lot of these people are interested in multimodal AI for, virtual assistants or whatever it might be. Maybe we should create or acquire some content within that realm and then put that available in a learning path. And I think that's another great way to start future proofing things. Use the data to your advantage. Try to see where your learners are going and how that aligns back to where your company is going. If there are any points of intersection there, try to feed that as much as you possibly can.
Hey, Justin. So
Yes.
we were seeing the PowerPoint and
Oh
not
no.
toward. I was
Oh
waiting for
no.
a pause.
Oh no.
But yes, no worries, no worries.
Oh no. So let's go back. Can you see ALM now?
Yes.
Okay, so let me go back to here. So this is what I was talking about. This is that recommended based on your interest row. So this is going to show kind of a snapshot in time of what you're interested in, right? If I click view all, then that takes you to a catalog of everything you're interested in, right? And so all of those filters are already done for you, etc. And you can turn those filters on and off, but this gives you a more full, robust view of all the content that's available to you based on your particular interests inside of ALM. Everybody sees that now?
Perfect.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So again, trying to help stay ahead of the curve, so to speak. So use all of this information to your advantage as an administrator inside of ALM, because that will then allow you to dig into those things where if you see an uptick in people taking or completing courses, or maybe they're even taking and failing courses, right? And you think that, oh my gosh, these people need to be all aware of how to use X tool. Well, if everybody's taking that course and failing it, that's an opportunity for you to come in and create remedial content, job aids, whatever the case may be, and then put those into a learning plan that you then assign to everybody to kind of help close those skills gaps. Because that's one of the things that I think, a robust LMS really helps you do the most is assess where your current um, team is with a particular skill. And I think that's something that's super duper important is to always understand where these people are at any given time. So, any questions about any of that material? I know I had some bumps in the road there, so my sincerest apologies, but any questions that I can answer about any of that stuff?
As of this moment, we're good, but I
Okay.
would assume some might pop up now.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. So everybody seeing this secure financial screen now? We're good on this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. We got a little bit of time left. So let's move on now and start talking a little bit about gamification. Now, this is something that I think a lot of learning and development professionals, including myself, have conflicted opinions about. Because gamification, I think, done correctly, is a really cool motivator. I don't know if you've ever done a lot of any of these apps like Duolingo or any of those things where they kind of reward you for having a streak, things like that. It's really big. I'll tell you the biggest thing of gamification that's ever worked for me personally, and that was in my personal journey to try and lose weight. So as you can see, like I'm not in the best shape of my life personally, but I used to weigh close to 500 pounds. So I have lost over, I think it's almost 300 pounds total that I've lost over the course of the last like decade or so. So it's not like I did this overnight. So please don't clap and think that I did something amazing. But like anyway, it's a problem that I solved, and the way that I solved it was through gamification. The first thing I ever tried was the Nike Fuel Band. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was in the early 2010s, and this fuel band allowed me to accumulate points, and I could weigh my points against my friends. I actually bought a couple people Nike Fuel bands because I really just wanted to compete with them during the day. Like it was like, how many points do I have? The same is true in learning, I think, like with the Duolingo streaks and things like that, but it's not always the same in corporate learning. And I acknowledge that. I acknowledge this is not something that everybody is super into, but for the right audience, and I think for specific teams, it can absolutely create a really cool environment of friendly competition. So inside of Adobe Learning Manager, we do have a gamification section. And what you'll be able to do as an admin is go in here and choose the different levels that people are allowed to achieve. So we have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, etc. You can edit these here at the top to say, okay, how many points do individuals need to achieve in order to reach each one of these levels? If you want to change any of these, totally up to you, the formula you use. If at any time you're like, you know what, nobody's moving from place to place, you can lower those numbers, you can raise those numbers, you can revert them to our original calculations here. Totally up to you how you do that. I'm just going to leave it as is. And then underneath here, you can start saying, okay, these are the different things that we have available for learners. So for fast learners, upon completing a specific number of courses per month, so one course per month, you earn 50 credits, two courses, 100, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing here. How many courses per month? Oh, you've got one, it's 20. Like there's all these different levels that you have within here. You can go into the settings of this and you can either turn this feature on or off. That's why I said it's not for everybody. So we do give you the ability to turn it off. If you want to turn on confidentiality, if you want to reset it, like all of that is available to you here. But this is a cool way of kind of incentivizing people to come back to your learning platform. So if you are a company who loves to have people come in and learn on a regular basis, not just, hey, we've emailed you 5 times, please come take this compliance training kind of thing, but you want to create a real culture of learning. I think this is a great way to do that. And I'll show you what this looks like from a learner's perspective. So I'm going to log in to a different instance of this really quickly and show you the learner perspective. So we'll go here. So as a learner, if this is turned on and I'm coming in and, maybe there's ways even offline to incentivize this, right? So, hey, if you get to bronze level, we're gonna do something fun as a team. Or if you achieve the gold level, you get an extra day of PTO or so, something fun like that. I don't know. But you can go in anytime as a learner and you can choose this leaderboard function. And so in the leaderboard, you can come in here and you can see where you rank against all of your colleagues at any given time. You can also come in, this is one of my favorites here. So you could go in and say like, hey, rank me against, and I'll just search for somebody. Let's see, is there any groups? Here we go. So you can rank yourself against specific groups of people. So you could rank yourself against, other sales teams. You could rank yourself against other design teams, etc. Over on the right, it kind of explains to you, and this is based on the rules that you have set up, like all of the different ways that you can earn points. So it's very transparent. And then it kind of shows you at the top this sort of rabbit model, where are you on the spectrum of learners kind of thing. So you can kind of track your little guy as he goes across the screen here. So people like myself who are video game motivated, some people are, some people aren't. I see this and I see getting to the end as a challenge. And I
Hey,
want to be, yes,
I'm so sorry.
go
We
ahead.
are seeing the admin side of it. We are not seeing the
Again,
leaderboard
why is it
specifically.
not switching?
Yes. We have a great audience. They really help.
Yes, thank you guys for telling me. I really appreciate it. I don't know why it's not switching. I'm choosing whole screen every time. Okay, so here is the leaderboard, right? And you get this thing at the top that tells you exactly where you are at any given time. So unfortunately, right now, I'm pretty far behind. This is a motivator for me. And I think this is a motivator for a lot of folks. Seeing how they are again, like this would be the average, right? Like somebody else is ahead of me. And this is where I need to be if I really want to be in the upper echelon. So people like me who are motivated by, completing the rings, closing the whatever it is, like finishing the journey, so to speak. This is a big deal for me. Now, other people, maybe not. But I think within teams, certain teams, the right teams, this can be a huge motivator for people. You can also add people to your timeline, for example. So if I want to search here for somebody, and let's just say I want to put Dan on my list, and I want to put, it doesn't really matter. You can add as many people to this as you want, and that'll start putting people in your list, to rank yourself against. I was trying to tell you before that you can rank yourself against entire teams here. So like I can start looking for, let's say managers. So I can say like, okay, hey, this is Alan, like my manager, like rank me against his team or rank me against Al, all these different things. You have different ways of benchmarking yourself against other people. And I think if you are dedicated to leveling yourself up in a particular skills area, and then also you have this gamification aspect tied to it here, that's a really interesting way because you could say, you know what? I have put together a pretty decent resume of courses and certs and badges that I've achieved while I'm here. I'm also, way above the company average in terms of learning for, the overall leaderboard here. Like And again, it depends on how much weight and how much credence people give to this type of system. But I think in a way it could be a really cool thing for you. And so here, once I click save, you can see there's Dan. So Dan's been at it. Dan's slightly ahead of me, right? So I can have my little buddy there, and that always helps me. So like I have my best friend from college, Brent. We share Apple Watch statistics with each other, and like we constantly issue challenges to each other, et cetera, et cetera. The same could be true here. So gamification, I think, in the right hands, within the right team, and within the right context, can be something that is a whole lot of fun. But I think it really does have to fit that specific use case and team and all that good stuff. So let's see here. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead now and let's get into the final piece of this. I'm going to make sure I'm sharing the right screen and go back to my admin view here. There we go. Okay. And so last thing that we're going to talk about is reporting. So inside of the reporting section, this is where you can, as I say, measure what matters. And this is where, as an administrator, I think you have the biggest ability to make change. Because yes, you can assign things to people. You can create learning plans. You can create learning paths. You can do all of these things. But as the old saying goes, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And this is also where you can really assess the efficacy of your efforts. So we've got a few different reports that can be shown on these dashboards. At the top here, we've got user activity, we've got training content, and we've got a learning summary, and we've got custom reports. So it's going to take a minute to fulfill this. So once it loads, I'll show you this screen. There we go. And it's going to be showing me this for the last 12 months. If I want to, I can come down and take a look at the active training report. So I can split this into groups. So if we have different groups, different teams, things like that, I can change that to see only that group or team. I can specify a different date range. So for instance, I can dive in there to see, okay, like let's kind of see the last um, period last year, similar things. And what are we tracking here? Enrollments, views, completions, the start ratio, the completion ratio, any learner feedback, any manager feedback, etc. Now, these are all very macro level um, statistics, right? But they're useful. If you've assigned this to a certain amount of people and your goal is 90% completion and you're only hitting at about 60 or 70%, that's a gap that you need to close. But one of the other things that you can go into is the learning summary. This is one of the ones that I like the best. So you can go in and you can see things like skill status. And this is super cool because I can see the amount of people within each skill. So like for instance, learning theory level 1, I can see that there are 36% of my team is enrolled, it's in progress, and 10% have achieved it. Same thing here for effective communication. 90% in progress, 2% completion, 75% in progress, 0, 75% in progress, 0% achieved. These are all things that I need to correct, right? I can go into the team skills details report, and that's going to break it down for me in terms of letting me see, okay, how many people are actually enrolled? Out of those people, how many people have achieved it? How many people are in progress? Et cetera, et cetera. So this is great. These are ways for you to actively track those skills gaps. So imagine you had set up a skill for artificial intelligence, or imagine you set up a skill for a specific product or a specific tactic. Let's say you're rolling out a new sales training model or something like that, right? Then you could track how many people are actually, on track to complete that. There's also a compliance dashboard down here. I don't have anything set up in this compliance instance, but imagine things that you need, like, hey, man, we have to do something about GDPR or about the CCPA. Those are, data protection law frameworks that people need to be aware of. Like, how close are we to having people, certified and up to date on that? And then finally, my favorite piece of this is the custom reporting. I absolutely love custom reports because we have one, a way for me to come in here and auto generate an Excel file that I can then bring into Excel. I can turn it into a pivot table. I can use that and turn it into charts or data visualizations that I want to share back in like a monthly or quarterly readout, things like that. And these are pretty detailed. Like I can go into specific course reports, learning transcripts, all the way down to gamification and feedback summaries. I mean, there's a lot of great things in here. But other things you can do is you can come in here and take this is a sample dashboard, for example. You can build custom dashboards in here. And the dashboards could be specific to just about anything you want. So let's go to the dashboard and let's just add a new report to this. Actually, let's start off with this. This is kind of small right here, but it says add dashboard. Let's add a dashboard and let's just call this Justin's dashboard for now. We can always rename it later. And then you can choose to share this with people as well, making it easier for you to share with other managers on your team or anybody like that. So we'll just go ahead and click save. And then we can add a report to this. And the report that we build can be like, okay, we want to see um, learning time spent per course, let's say, right? And we'll just add this default here, year to date, any filters we want. For the sake of demonstration, I know I'm running low on time, so I'm just going to add that to it. I can continue adding reports to this and build out a full dashboard, or I could say, you know what, let's just make that a big one there. So continuing to add reports to this, I can build all of the information that I want to see. I can build this to the dashboard and then I can share that dashboard with my colleagues, other learning managers, etc. So anytime that I want to get back here and see a bird's eye view of the metrics that I care about the most, this is where I do it from. So I'm going to stop there. I know I have a few minutes left. I want to take any questions that you might have. I know I had some technical problems there in the middle. So sorry about that. But if there are any questions, I would love, love, love to answer them. Anything related to this or anything else in general. Just happy to chat.
Yeah, yeah, no, no worries. We all have the issues. So glad we were there. We got to do it. But yeah, do you have anything new coming up? Any new, AI is a really big topic right now.
We
Anything
do.
along that?
Yeah, we do. So, if you were at Adobe Learning Summit, I don't know if anybody here was at Adobe Learning Summit. We just had it a couple of weeks ago in Las Vegas, but we did announce a few things about AI specifically to Adobe Learning Manager. So we do have AI-based learning paths on the way. So basically, think of being able to add those skills to your profile or things that you're interested in. ALM will analyze all of the content in the system, and then there'll be a button that says, hey, you know what? Generate me a learning path. And it will automatically build a learning path of courses for you to take. So super cool stuff coming on that front.
Beautiful. And Christina just popped in a question. Is Adobe Captivate integrated into the course building portion of this platform?
So I wouldn't call it like a direct integration. Like you can't build using the same tools as Captivate inside of ALM, but you can export your Captivate files. And of course, since we're Adobe, like it's Adobe, so of course it works really well on import. That way, we have something in ALM called the Fluidic Player that will actually absorb content from things like Captivate, also audio, video, tin can files, all of those different things in there as well.
Perfect, perfect. And then yeah, I know we had some technical difficulties, of course, going through the skills journey and all that, but do you have anything in the works for skills alongside that AI
We
feature?
do. So skills are getting a revamp. I'm pretty excited about it actually. So you saw some of it. Some of it's live in there today. So like managers being able to go in there and assign skills. But the new thing will be people being able to go in and being able to add their own skills. So let's say that I wanted to, I say, you know what, I'm a photographer. I'm not, but let's say I am. And they're like, okay, cool. And maybe you're lobbying to be the company photographer. Great. I need to be able to verify that skill. The way that it's going to work is we're going to add skills. If an admin or a manager has tagged courses with those skills, a learner will be able to say, show me all of the relevant content or assessments associated with that skill, and then either auto enroll themselves or in the course or the assessment, If they take the assessment, immediately they're verified. They get a little check mark next to that skill. And then on their profile, the manager can come back and say, oh, you know what? Justin is a data analyst or a photographer. That's super cool. That kind of thing.
Perfect, perfect. That is all the time we have left for questions. But again, you will have the PowerPoint sent in the follow-up email, which has that QR code of Adobe, of course, but of Justin's LinkedIn. So if you have any other additional questions, totally scan that QR code there. But with that, is there anything else you would like to leave with the audience today, Justin?
Not really. I think, if you haven't tried Adobe Learning Manager, there's a free 30-day trial. Take it for a spin. If you have any questions while you're doing that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to do that. But otherwise, just thanks everybody for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again on the next one.
Yes, which will be November 13th. Wink, wink. I have to do earlier dates for this slide, but November 13th. All that to say, I do invite you guys to join for some up and coming webinars this month, including a conversation series and a learning tech showcase technically next month. So you can register for these programs and watch past webinars now at trainingindustry.com. And all of these are pre-qualified for a credit hour by HRCI, SHRM, ISPI, and CPTM. If you're like, what is CPTM Liz? It is the Certified Professional and Training Management Program that assists you in developing core competencies that will empower you to manage the future training needs of your organization. So you can find more at trainingindustry.com/training. And I would love to meet you all here in person next year. Yes, 2025, crazy, in Raleigh, North Carolina for our Training Industry Conference and Expo. And TICE is where learning leaders like you gather to forge new professional connections, learn from each other, address your most pressing learning challenges. So re-energize your initiatives at TICE 2025. And I say this all now because it is the advanced early bird registration, so the prices will go up at the end of December. So definitely check it out. And lastly, that evaluation survey should have popped open in another tab in your browser. We would appreciate hearing your feedback on today's session. Thank you again to our speaker today, Justin, as well as our sponsor, Adobe. But lastly, I do thank you all for your time and attention. You guys were on it today, and I do hope to see you guys next time. So bye, everybody.